culture, a watershed movement, is no other than Captain Linden Hillman, one of the panelists yesterday on the matter discussing shuttle operations. Now, Captain Hillman is a born and bred Guyanese, and he certainly has the interest of Guyana aviation at heart. This is the second conference that he is attending, and I must say, thank you, sir, for the first time you came to Guyana in 2015 on the conference. He contributed 6 windsocks to the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, which was passed on to the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, and I'm sure they have been installed at remote locations to improve safety and to provide necessary information to pilots. Captain Hillman received his introduction to flying from our very own Director General, Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Field, in the early days of flying in Guyana. In 1973, he started his career at Ogle, Gaisuku, and he never looked back after that. He is currently captain on 737s with what Fortune 1000 company says is one of the best airlines in the world, Southwest Airlines. And he has been flying commercially for 36 years, 30 of those as an airline pilot. And he has accumulated more than 26,000 flying hours. He now resides in Florida. His career as a pilot has included charter, regional, and major airline companies. Never satisfied with just flying the line, his career has incorporated many aspects in the aviation field, including ground and simulator instructor, check airman, safety auditor, professional standards, accident investigation, contract negotiator, and union leader. So folks, be careful. All the pilots who got union issues, speak to Captain Hillman. So it gives me great pleasure this morning to invite Captain Linden Hillman to talk to us about a watershed moment, developing a safety culture. Captain Hillman.
Good morning. It's always good to be home. Artie, thank you. Finally, somebody's recognized how good looking I am, so kudos. Now, I did not pay her to say that, but I'll take all the compliments I can. To the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here. I know to do business one way, head on. And I've been privileged to do the thing that I like doing for a very long time, and I've been able to provide a pretty good living for my family. So aviation's been good to me, and it sounds cliche, but I have to give back. So here I am. I'm going to flip this thing up on its head here a little bit and go back to something my friend Artie said, which was, we spent most of yesterday talking about pilots. And I hinted yesterday, so pilots don't hate me, okay? But we're not the center of the universe when it comes to aviation safety. I'm sorry, we just aren't. So I want to first recognize all of those who play a part in aviation. So in other words, I'm speaking about your world, from the time the airplane is pushed back, or you taxi out, and you launch, there's a whole host of things happen before we could do that. In my case, before we push back, you got the guy in the tug, he's talking to us, blah, blah, blah. We push back, we launch, we come back, we set a brake. But there's people in the background, and what I like to refer to as under the hood. So all you mechanics, dispatchers, you folks that work in the office, anything to do with the movement of that airplane, including the folks, for example, like, somebody calls up and they book a ticket to go from Ogle to Kaichor. Everybody's involved with this. So thank you for what you do. So my address is about, we're all involved with this. We all have a stake in the safety and the operation of the airplane. So if my company have too many incidents, accidents, call what you want. Fender benders, doesn't matter to me. I live in a world in which social media is hot. As soon as it happens, it's on social media. It's going to affect how many people fly on my airline. I don't want to get laid off. I want my company to survive. All of you that work for whatever company you work for here at Ogle or in Guyana, you want your company to survive so you can provide a living for your family. So thanks for the role you play. Do understand everybody has a role in safety. Every single person. If you see something that is wrong, the guy who's loading the bags on the ramp, speak up. Say it is wrong. Now I understand the culture here, okay? And the culture here, maybe there's fear, maybe there's retribution. But I have to address it. We are an extended family in aviation. I don't care where you are. You fly airplanes for a living, you're a mechanic, whatever you do. We're a brotherhood, we're a sisterhood, and when I read that there's been a loss of life in Guyana in an airplane accident, or there's been an accident, maybe not necessarily loss of life, please do understand that your extended family grieves for you guys. Because that pilot was a friend, a husband, whatever. You hate to lose your friend. I've lost a couple in this business, right? And so it hurts. Because maybe we could have done something to prevent it. So I'm going to talk about how we prevent this. So we've got a couple of tracks here, all right? We can, sometimes it's easy to change things in this business. As already said, maybe there's an accident, and then, oh, man, why the heck were they doing that? I don't know how long I've been flying Boeing 737s, and they still change their checklist because pilots or whatever they discover, we need to do things better. So we just launched the latest Boeing 737 family, the MAX jet, and I can assure you when I get back to the States, I'm probably going to get what we call a read before flights, that Boeing says, okay, hey, don't do it this way anymore. You know, it's a new jet. We're ironing out all the little kinks. So the company will send out a memo that says, as of today, do it this way. That's easy, right? That's easy to do. Here, what's not easy to do, and this is the challenge that I intend to confront here. You can't send a memo out to people to change a culture. It's not that easy. A culture has to be fostered from the top of the organization all the way down that says, as my friend Artie said, well, we've been doing it this way for 20 years, so we'll just keep doing it. Well, you know, we only had 3 accidents in 20 years. It's okay. 3 out of 20 is not bad. Whatever. No, it's not good. We need to change the culture. So how are we going to change the culture? It's going to start at the top all the way down. When I go to work, that's what I'm told every day. Safety does matter. If I see something is wrong, they'll tell me it's wrong. The guy putting the soda and whatever else on the airplane comes in and he says, hey, we noticed a little dent to the back where they put the little loading stuff up there. There's a little dent on the fuselage. Well, maybe we missed it on the walk around. We don't ignore it. But he recognized that maybe we were not aware that dent is there. He doesn't fly the jet, but he understands the culture. The culture is if you see it is wrong and it shouldn't be there, you say something about it. Now, we have systems in place to make these easy. But that's what we have to do in Guyana. We have to develop these systems, and that's why people like myself will volunteer our time to come here and do this. I didn't come to Guyana because I didn't have anything else to do, all right? There's other things I'd rather be doing or could have been doing in the United States. But I'm here because safety matters. So I'm bringing my 30-something years of experience to the table. So let's talk real life, okay? So we're not talking in hyperbole. I was all over the map on how the heck I'm going to address this group. It's easy sometimes for the audience to sit there and say, well, you know, these guys in the States, they don't understand what goes on in Guyana. I flew here. I understand what's going on here. I understand it's not easy. I applaud my fellow aviators in Guyana that fly in less than ideal situations. I applaud you. I can't do it anymore. I'm scared to death to come and fly in Guyana. I had the privilege of going on a flight last year, I think it was here, to Linden, and I thought, whoa, boy, this is different. It's challenging. I get it. But I don't want to come back here 2 years from now and say, well, you know, well, we had a couple more deaths. So real life, I remember this incident. I said, you know what, this is probably something I need to share with you guys. So last year, here is how we deal and confront with challenges in the United States. This is a letter that the Vice President of Flight Operations wrote his pilots. The reason it was only this morning I came, I told my son, hey, I need to show them this. I pulled it up on the internet. So here's the Vice President of Flight Operations, and the Vice President of Flight Operations, so you understand, he's the guy that has his or her thumb on the daily operations of the airline. The reason for this letter is exactly what we need to do here. We need to confront the challenges we face. We're not here to point finger. We're not here to point blame. I'm not an accident investigator. I'm a dumb old pilot that don't understand that what I need to do to stay alive is follow standard operating procedure, be honest, integrity matters, fly the jet the way my company wants me to fly, because at the end of the week, we get paid twice a month. I get paid to fly the jet the way they want it flown, not the way you want to fly the airplane, Linden. I mean, you're a good guy, brother, but you need to go out there and pay attention to details, and whether it's a 737 or an Islander or a 206 or a Caravan, I don't really care. Fly the airplane the way it's supposed to be flown. So he got kind of tired and concerned about some of these issues, which is what prompted this conference, the spate of accidents we've had. Now, let me say this. We in the United States, there are times, and I thought Jerry brought it up yesterday, the world is not coming to an end. Every airline in the United States have, at some point in time, where these issues spike. But we don't point finger, but here is what this guy did. So, he said, recent events in our operation have dictated that we communicate with all of you immediately. Over the past weeks, our airlines experienced what we would categorize as major safety events and near misses. In flight operations, we have seen 2 events in close proximity to terrain. That's a GPWS event, undesired aircraft state, on departure, low fuel, blah, blah, blah. So he goes on to say, while the airline industry seems to be in a state of flux, that's exactly what's happening in Guyana. Aviation is in a state of flux in Guyana. And he went on and on and on, all right? He says, we are professional aviators with the common goal of flying our passengers safely and crew from point A to point B safely. Another common thread, some of these events, is a lack of attention to disciplined crew resource management. Every time we enter the cockpit with the intention of performing our pilot duties, we evaluate risk. Every pilot must be willing to speak up if safety is in question. Not only the pilots need to speak up, everybody needs to speak up. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't know how you would feel if that airplane goes off and it didn't come back and you didn't say something that you saw that may have been problematic. You mechanics, all right? You guys You're the tip of the spear here. Loaders. All right? The recent CFIT incident in Birmingham involving another carrier underscores how quickly things can unravel. The approach to landing appeared normal to the pilots until right before impact. Let's not for a moment think something like that could not happen at United. I will tell you, I go to work. Now, that was a UPS Airbus. Birmingham, slammed into the side of the hill. Professional aviators. How the hell did this happen? All right? It's about attention to detail. And here's something I spoke about yesterday. While no one ever shows up for work with the goal of intentionally making a mistake, we're human beings. So I have my colleagues over here who are talking about, crew resource management, human intervention, human factors. It could happen. And it happened in Ghana this past year. So the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority invited us to come down to talk about this. Talk about how are we going to get from here to there. This letter tells you why we need to confront this issue head on. We're not pointing fingers at anybody. We're saying something is amiss here. They're saying something needs to be done. That's all they're saying. So he wrote his pilots. You think those pilots were happy when this letter came out? No, they weren't. But this was a public document that was put out there so everybody understands the stakes are very high. So let me put it in personal terms, okay? Personal terms. You think I want my family on an airplane in which people are doing whatever they feel like doing or whatever? I don't care who it is. No, I don't want my family on an airplane. We all have a responsibility, attention to details. So after 30-something years I've been flying, I've made my fair share of mistakes. I learned from them. I want us to learn from our mistakes and go on. But this is how you deal with these issues. You deal with them head on. Nothing personal. We can go to the slideshow, please. Let me just talk about this. You said here, we know this is brutally honest message, and the tendency may be to rationalize why compliance is not occurring in some areas. Bottom line, United is a critical juncture in the history, and we as aviators must adhere to policies, procedures outlined in the flight manuals, flight operations manual, and that ALPA code of ethics. And I've been an ALPA pilot for almost 30 years, and I was involved in safety and so on. So we have our own little code of ethics, which I'd love to share with you folks here. So that's the reality. That's how you deal with these problems. Now, United probably has 10,000 pilots. You think all of them were screwing up? No, heck no. There were a few. So that's how we need to do it. Most of you are just good aviators, right? You follow the book, all right? If the airplane is not stabilized, you go around. If the weather's not good, you don't go. We could switch to the slideshow, please. So, watershed moment. A watershed moment is you get to a crossroad. As Jerry said yesterday, people think the skies are falling. No, the sky's not falling, but we are at a watershed moment. It doesn't matter what happened back there. I bring a very simplistic approach to what I do for a living. I'm not the best pilot. I guarantee I'm not the worst one. But what I do bring is discipline. So I understand that if I follow procedures, it'll keep me out of trouble. So when I go for my check ride, it's the same thing I do all the time. I don't wear two hats. It'll probably save my life. But we've got to change the culture, and that's the issue here. And again, it's not easy to change a culture. I'm not bragging, but I do fly for maybe the best airline on planet Earth. And we take this stuff seriously. But it starts from the top and works its way down because we lead by example. When you fly as a captain, you set the example. You lead by example. It's called professionalism. It's called honesty. It's called integrity. And I get into trouble for this oftentimes because I'm such a simple guy. I always go, hey man, these guys write my paycheck. So I have a responsibility to do it the way they want it done. If I want to fly the jet my way, then I need to go buy my own airplane and fly it the way I want to fly it. But that's not the case, right? I have 4 kids. I need to pay the rent, I need to buy food. And importantly, I don't take myself too seriously, but I take my responsibility seriously. I want to stay alive. I want to keep these people alive. They don't deserve not to be treated anything less than professionally by a professional aviator. So, a little bit about me, where we left off, US Airways, and what's next. So, that's me and that big old jet engine on the MAX jet. So, I started flying the crop dusters out of here, then I flew layers, flew the dash, flew the 7-3. I've been in that airplane for a while. And I'm flying the one at the bottom there right now. And next year, God willing, I retire. So, where we left off. Here's another cliche. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger here, but I don't forget too easily. So let me remind everybody of something about a couple of years ago that happened here. So I'm going to be the messenger. Watch this. Anybody knows who said this? With more than 25 cases of aircraft accidents over the past decade, there's a real need for prompt and proper investigations to be conducted so that we can learn lessons from them and improve our legislation. This quote came from this guy, the President of the Republic of Guyana. Where did he say it? He said it at the commission ceremony of the Beach 1900 2 years ago. So some of you may have forgotten. I didn't. So this issue we're talking about today, folks, is not a new one. What we all in here need to do, operators all the way down, everybody who's involved with this. I'm going to be on an airplane on Monday going back to the States. You folks need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, since then, what have you done to answer that call? I didn't write it. Again, I'm the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, all right? So fast forward 2 years forward, 17, we're back here. We're talking about the same thing. Mr. DG, again, you weren't here, but thanks for the invite. I don't want to come back here 2 years from now and we haven't done a darn thing and you've lost a couple more of your colleagues because, well, statistically, according to the statistics I've heard the past couple of days, it's coming. And let me be brutally honest. Are we in the United States, with all the technology we have and the millions of dollars they spend to train us, I'm here to tell you we are going to have incidents in the United States. Somebody's going to bend an airplane somewhere because we're all working towards 0 accidents. I'm here to tell you, and I said this 2 years ago, so it's worth repeating. There will be another accident in the United States. There will be another accident in Guyana. Last time I was here, one of the pilots that's deceased, I saw him. Maybe it's going to be one of you in here. What we don't know is who, when, and where. I said this to a number of people the last time. I said it last year when I was down here. I hate to be prophetic, But that's a business I deal with. This is why there is no shortcuts. This is why we have to confront this issue head on and get to a point where we can reduce accidents. We'll never, ever get zero. So, what happened since I was last here? These are the pictures. I didn't make them up. I went to the internet. Right? So are these accidents finally Guyana's watershed moment? Is this the crossroads? Everybody has a crossroads. Whether it's in your personal life, you know, you get this scare, as already said, I think it's already said this morning. So you get this scare, you say, oh man, you know, that was my coming to Jesus moment. And then you turn to religion, and you turn your life around, and you say, I'm going to be good. It's no different in aviation. We're at this crossroads. So I went to the internet, I got the pictures. That's what we're dealing with, folks. So it doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Some of them are old. Some of them are old. But we had a bunch of accidents in the past 3 months. And we've had a bunch of accidents since I was last here in 2015. We are not going to deny that fact. All right, moving along. So when we have these moments in the United States, what do? So this is one of them. My parent company I worked with, this was a rudder issue. It wasn't centered. We went off the inner runway in LaGuardia. Wind shear, thunderstorms. Maybe they shouldn't have done the approach. So when these things happen, we ask, what next? Our watershed moment. This is your watershed moment. We go back to the drawing board. Like that letter from the United Vice President of Flight Operations. We go there and we go, what are we going to do? We can't continue. I don't care whether they're old pictures or they're new pictures. The question we need to ask is, what have we done to stem and correct this? Nothing personal against anybody in here. So what's next? Where are these crossroads? You only have two paths, my friends. Only two. You could continue down the one that says, Artie said, hey, you know, we've been doing this for 15 years. What the heck? We're not going to have some guy from the U.S. come and tell us how to fly these airplanes in the bush. I just continue. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to go back to the States, to my cushy job, and happily retire, God willing. Or I could come here and help us take that other path, which says we need to be better. We can do better. We must do better. So there's a smart guy said once, what is insanity? And he says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I think one of those paths is the path to insanity. The choice is yours. Again, I'm going back to the States and make sure I don't do anything stupid and get myself into trouble. But we just want to, as somebody said before, we're not pointing fingers or blame folks. We're saying you have a problem. We can do better. We must do better. We've got skilled aviators in this country, and we've got a couple of Guyanese guys that would rather not be watching ESPN, but would rather come here and contribute something to this country who's given us a lot, like me. So I have an idea. We can have 0 accidents. Yeah, there's a way to do it. Let's just park all the jets. Just park all the airplanes in the hangar. We all go home. There's no accidents because they're all parked. But we know we can't do that because you spend millions of dollars to buy these things. You have to make money. It's not a new concept, my friends. Aviation is not without risk. What it is, it's about how we plan to manage the risk. That's what it is. So, managing risk. You know, you identify the problem, you assess the problem, you review the problem, you implement controls, you mitigate, and you monitor, and that circle goes round and round and round, and then some dumb pilot's going to do something next week, and you go, oh, gee, we didn't think about that. Because the human factors guys comes in and say, oh, gee, we didn't think about that. So everybody's trying to stay ahead of the game to prevent one thing: accidents and to enhance safety. That's the only reason they're doing it. So we've got NTSB, we've got the human factors guys, everybody's involved. And then, to another question Jerry asked yesterday, I was involved with the world's largest pilots union, the Airline Pilots Association, until at Southwest we have our own in-house union for the almost 9,000 pilots, but we've got some pretty skilled people at the Airline Pilots Association. So, for example, when the US Air flight, what was that flight number in Pittsburgh? 427. He had a hard over. They thought it was wake turbulence, lost it, slammed in the ground. And then when they looked back a little bit, they discovered that United had a similar incident on another 737, and our union, the Airline Pilots Association, got involved. John and these guys will investigate. Everybody's doing their own thing, Boeing, everybody's doing, and then our union went in and said, okay, we're going to play a part in this. And we discovered that, hey, the rudder needed to be redesigned. So the rudder on the 737 has been enhanced. So it's a constant evolving thing, and everybody's got an interest in just one thing: in making this profession. I would rather not do anything else than to be involved with aviation. Sorry, son, he's a business guy. So John spoke about this yesterday, the Swiss cheese model, and I just want to bring it back up again quick because it was in my slide presentation. Imagine 4 slices of cheese, to keep this simple. We always need organization support to enhance safety, right? Then you got the frontline employees, pilots, mechanics, baggage handlers, whoever else is out there that has direct contact with the airplane. Meteorologists, you got a list. I hope I didn't leave anybody else out. And then you have safety programs involved there. And if you don't have all these checks in places, then you can have an unsafe act, and eventually what's going to happen is the holes line up, and we have an accident. I'm not suggesting that that's what happened. That's for the investigators to determine, but I think we have some of that happen, maybe involved in what has been happening here the past couple months. So, that's my cockpit on top left, but it really don't matter what your cockpit looks like or what type of airplane you fly. So some may get all wrapped around the axle here with, you know, a Boeing is different than an Islander and a 206. That's poppycock, okay? That's nonsense. Why? Because you cannot defy the laws of physics. I don't care what you fly. If you do something stupid, it's coming out the sky. So it doesn't matter what you fly. What matters is professionalism, attention to detail, standard operating procedures. If it doesn't look right, we're going around. Let's take another look at this. Developing this culture of safety. So my friends, again, we are at this crossroads here. We need to change. We need to do something different. If not, it's continued insanity. The one of you pilots in here, and bad things happen, okay? It's not your fault sometimes. But I hate to come back here next time and one of you that was in here is not here any longer because somebody didn't do something right. Somebody refused to accept the fact that we need to go down a different path. So all of you have a responsibility. So you guys have a choice. And go right back to my first slide in which Donald President in Guyana said, we got to do something different. So you must commit to furthering the culture of safety in Guyana. And like I said, you can send out a bulletin to change the way you operate the airplane, but you can't send out a bulletin that says, tomorrow I got to like you. That's culture. Those things are hard to happen, right? We've been talking about affirmative action in the United States for heaven knows how long. We still can't fix racism. Because the culture doesn't exist that says I respect you. So part of my observation here is this. We can't sit at the same table in this country and talk about these challenges. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority has a responsibility, and boy, I heard some big numbers there. This Director General is spending money like a drunken sailor. I mean, he's spending money because he has to, all right? There's work to be done. But the operators and everybody else that's involved has got a role to play. And the days when you could sit at the table or not sit at the table and point fingers and say, it's those guys' fault. And I know we got to deal with the FAA in the United States. We got some problems there too. You're not single in this. It's everywhere. But you got to sit at the table, Mr. Operator, Miss Operator, you guys got to sit at the table and say, we've had enough of this. How can we fix this problem? Don't talk over each other, talk to each other. So, some key takeaways. We can foster a culture of safety. We need to start yesterday. We need collaboration, a commitment from the government, Mr. DG, aviation leaders, airlines. But this comes back to the quote from the president in my first slide. He said, everybody in the aviation industry needs to work on this problem. So I'm just a messenger picking up on what the president said, right? Training. I put my hands up. Pilots. I'm gonna be honest. You think if the company I work for don't tell me that I have to be in Dallas, Texas to go to training, you think we will show up for training? Does anybody think pilots are gonna show up? No, you're not. But they mandate that you go for training. Why? Because they want you to be better. And they spend millions and millions of dollars for us to have the best simulators because it is cheaper not to have an accident. Nothing personal again, folks. I just call it always like it is. The airplane goes down over there. I don't care. It could be in the US or wherever. It doesn't matter. The airplane goes down, the insurance writes a check. We replace the airplane, lives are lost, and the process continues. And then a year from now, we forget that due to stupidity, because nobody wanted to fix the problem, because nobody had the spine to say it is wrong, we continue to have the problem. The lives that have been lost, we owe it to those professionals to fix this problem. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. I'm not an investigator. We just owe it to them to be better than we were yesterday, last month, last year, 10 years ago. We owe it to them to be better at this. Training, right? Regulation, review. Again, Mr. DG, in conjunction with the operators, because we never write regulation that stymies the progress of business. You got to work together, but we still have to have rules, okay? You got to have rules. One set of rules for everybody. Don't matter who you are. Same rules apply to United, same rules apply to Southwest, to American. We all follow the same rules. And when John and company show up because somebody didn't set the flaps and we're off the end of the runway, he doesn't care the color of the airplane. He cares that they find out why. Why the flaps were not set for takeoff. When 3 times, my company, 3 times, we have an opportunity to set the flaps. Right after we started the engines, on the checklist taxiing out, and what we call throttle burst. So you push the thrust levels up, and you get a takeoff warning. And yet, sometimes in this business, guys are forgetting the flaps. So, the parent company I worked for US here many years ago, and everybody's heard of him, Captain Sully wrote, in aviation, we should always aim for 0 accidents. To consider closer to accompanying this, we must have integrity to do the right thing, even if it costs more money. Altitude, airspeed, brains. You need 2 of the 3 to survive. My friends, my fellow aviators, thank you.